This video is a sort of test for a different format in which I forego the points as written in Missing 411 and instead launch directly into the information I was able to find on my own. So while this case does appear in the book Missing 411 Western United States and Canada on page 82, I will not be using it as a reference for the information that I present. You'll see why that's the case at the end of the video, where I compare what I was able to find with the information presented in the book. Mount Lassen is a national park about 70 miles southeast of Mount Shasta in the state of California. The park in which Mount Lassen resides is called Lassen Volcanic National Park, so named because Mount Lassen is a volcano. The last eruption was a prolonged series of events over the course of 1914 to 1917, with the most violent part of the eruption taking place in May of 1915. This explosive eruption threw ash and debris more than 9 kilometers in the air, and spread across the whole region with ash falling up to 500 kilometers away. The area would be designated as a national park the following year, in August of 1916. The website for the park states that the temperature here can fluctuate widely between day and night. June has an average high of 79 and a low of 34. Quite the variance. Greta Mary Gale was born into a family of socially notable people. Her father, William Gale Jr., was a deputy district attorney for the state of California. Her paternal grandfather, William Gale Sr., was Alameda County Jury Commissioner, and her maternal grandfather, John H. Tolan, was a retired congressman. Her family owned a summer home in an area called Lee's Campground. It was from this summer home that Greta vanished. At the time, she was 2.5 years old. At about 9 in the morning, Greta was playing with some other children just outside of the family's cabin. Small correction that I caught in editing. She was last seen by her mother at 9 a.m., but she was playing with the children for a while after that and was reported missing at 10 a.m. She went with them out of sight of her mother. According to Greta's father, Greta disappeared in a matter of mere seconds while her mother was just a short distance away. While Greta's mother was indeed close by, either near or in the cabin at the time, it is less clear exactly how much time elapsed between when the children last saw Greta and when it was reported to her parents. The most detailed report I was able to find says the following, quote, "She was playing with a half-brother and 2 cousins at the time, and her father said that the children told him Greta ran around the corner and was not seen again. After her absence was noticed, a search started very quickly." The initial search consisted of mostly volunteers rounded up from the nearby communities and bolstered by an unusually strong law enforcement response, perhaps due to the social status of her family. About 100 to 150 people searched the area on the first day. While kidnapping was suggested as a possibility right away, it seems like people were mixed on if they thought this was actually likely or not. A fire control officer for the Lassen National Forest stated that the possibility was being investigated, but it looked like she had just wandered off. The sheriff went a step further than this and stated that there was no evidence for kidnapping, but he would contact the FBI anyway. Greta's father, William Jr., said that the disappearance was very suspicious, and he thought that she was kidnapped based solely on the premise that his 2.5-year-old would not have wandered away, and it was far more likely that a kidnapper was lying in wait for Greta to be alone for just a few seconds. I'll let you be the judge on what you believe is more likely, but some retellings lean heavily on the kidnapping angle, despite there being absolutely no evidence of this, as we will discuss in a few moments. Regardless of the reason for her disappearance, she was in danger. If not from a kidnapper, then from wildlife and cold nights. Greta's maternal grandfather, John Tolan, joined the search efforts personally, despite being warned by family to take it easy due to his age. Unfortunately, the combination of the stress of the situation and the physical burden of searching through rough terrain proved too much for the 70-year-old's heart, and he collapsed upon returning to the cabin to rest. He was rushed to the hospital in bad condition. When night fell, the search continued with flashlights, and it didn't stop until midnight. It resumed immediately upon daybreak, and this time bloodhounds were on the scene as well, brought in from nearby Chico. The number of searchers continued to swell throughout the day, but she was not located on the 30th either. Unfortunately, at approximately 6 in the evening, John Tolan passed away, still not knowing the ultimate fate of his granddaughter, but surrounded by his loved ones. Early on the morning of July 1st, a group of lion hunters heard Greta crying amongst the boulders, less than a mile away from where she had disappeared. Francis Keeler, Lee Gaither, and Jim Gaither said that she must have hidden when they called out to her. They had to thoroughly search to find her. When they did eventually find her, hiding in a gully, she told the men that she had been hiding from the search parties because she was afraid of them. Even the previous day, a man with a bloodhound was very close to where she was, but she hid because she thought they were scary. She was shivering from the cold and very hungry. She was only wearing her undershirt, having discarded her pinafore and bib overalls. She insisted, despite her shivering and lack of attire, that she was not cold. The hunters were surprised that Greta managed to get up the steep slope where she was found. The area, while close to the Tolan cabin, was higher in elevation. One of the hunters shot in the air, alerting the other nearby searchers. Greta's father, who was searching a nearby ridge, was among the first to get to the hunters. Greta was rushed to the hospital by her parents, where she was treated for exposure. She was noted to be parched from thirst and had cuts on her legs as well as small pit marks from the gravel. She was held at the hospital for a couple of days so that she could recover. Greta's actions follow closely what we should expect from a missing child of this age. The book, Lost Person Behavior, even notes that children in this age bracket tend not to respond to searchers' calls and whistles, and that the statistically good survivability of these children is due to the aggressive search response and the toddler's tendency to seek shelter in structures and brush. Even going uphill is not especially unexpected, as about a third of children are found uphill from where they started. You may see some retellings of this case where it's pointed out that her missing clothing was not found. This is false. Her dress was located near where she was found. Finally, for her father's idea that she was kidnapped, all the evidence points to the negative. While the doctor did note that her condition was so good that perhaps she had been in somebody's care, the FBI agents noted that the scratches and gravel pit marks on her legs and feet indicated that she'd been traveling in the area under her own power for at least some time. In addition, she was pretty badly dehydrated. In my opinion, as well as the FBI's apparently, it was far more likely that she was just unusually hardy for her age. But luckily, we don't have to depend on opinion alone. We have testimony directly from Greta herself. When she was first found by the searchers, she told them, "I just got lost." She later expounded to her mother at the hospital, saying, "I walked a great deal. I found a rock and went to sleep." When asked about her lost clothing, she said, "The days were so hot." I promised a quick comparison at the end of the video with what's presented in Missing 411. I know that this is a part of why some of my viewers watch these videos to begin with, so here you are. On screen now are the points as presented in the book. Feel free to pause if you want to read each of them, and if you want to make sure that I'm not taking any of these points out of context, feel free to check up on me on page 82 of the book. Here is what I found. Simple clarifications are in yellow. Points that are more serious and would cause a reasonable person to change their conclusions about the case will be in red. Items that remain in white are unchanged by my research. Her mother was nearby but was crucially out of sight when Greta went missing, to the point where we don't know for sure how long she had been gone until her disappearance was reported by the other children that she was with. It wasn't the general consensus of everyone that Greta was kidnapped, It was her father that believed that her disappearance was suspicious, based solely on speculation that Greta wouldn't wander off, and that this must be because of John Toland's political career. The sheriff as well as the FBI said that they'd look into the possibility, but stated nearly every chance they got that there was no evidence of kidnapping. She was found less than 1 mile away and not necessarily on a slope, but at the top of one, actively hiding from searchers. She was in an undershirt, and her dress was found, contrary to what is reported in the book. Although, even if it wasn't, it wouldn't matter. Why would you continue searching after you've already found the child you're looking for? Greta herself admitted to removing the clothes because it got very hot during the day. And, of course, as we've already discussed, most damningly, Greta explained that she just got lost. In other words, this disappearance is completely explained.
I'd like to just take a moment to thank my patrons over at patreon.com for their support that makes videos like this possible. Thank you so much. Those of the public recognition tier are on screen now. And of course, thank you for watching. Until next time, take care.